am an LUT and also the media chair for Unity of Garden Park, and I'm going to take you through a quick rundown of what it's like for a volunteer to get set up and produce the Facebook Live show for our Sunday service on Sunday morning. So you can see here I'm on the desktop of the computer. First of all, this has to be a computer that has a pretty good graphics card because we're using it as the processing or the encoding for this video. So you can't do this on just any computer. I think at the time this computer was $2,400 in order to get a quality graphics card to run what we're doing. So on the desktop here, we're going to go ahead and click open OBS. And OBS is a free software which allows us to broadcast by bringing in cameras and audio sources and sending them out to our stream so that we can put slides up as well as the camera, and we can have some control over our broadcast. You can see over here there are scenes. Each of these scenes need to be set up. So there's the setting up of the scenes. On Sunday morning there's a physical setup of the equipment that needs to be connected. Then there's a second that kind of combines the two, where the camera is physically put into this software so it shows up in these black spaces that you see here in the screen and they're not blank. And then after that we prep Facebook Live. So the first thing I'm going to show you is we'd come in and sit down at the computer, open this up and prepare these scenes. You can see that there in the sources here there's supposed to be a picture, but the pictures have been erased because most of these change from week to week, and so you have to know where to go to download the slides to put them in here. This happens on Sunday morning unless the volunteer can take the computer home with them and then bring it back. Usually it would be them coming in and just understanding this is all the things they need to do. So first of all, you're going to go out to Chrome, and through the Unity of Garden Park Google login, we're going to go to the Google Drive and find this folder where all of the media lives. So it's the Unity of Garden Park PowerPoint folder, and you can see this is all the media that we need for this week. So here are the PowerPoint slides. So if we open this up, we can see all the slides in here that are going to go for, they'll be seen on the Facebook Live, but they're also going to be on the screens. So we need to be able to open this in PowerPoint, so we're going to have to download it. You could also bring this already downloaded on a jump drive. So I'm going to go ahead and download this here onto my desktop so that I can now get it into OBS. And there it is. So I'm going to close out of this and minimize this so that I can now see my folder. Here it is. I'm going to open this up, and then now I need to extract the individual slides so they're each one picture and not an entire slideshow. So I'm going to save it or export it, save as or export it in a new format. So what I want to do here is I want to find JPEGs because I'm going to make each slide into a picture, and then I'm going to download that onto my desktop. So I'm going to save this. It says, which slides do you want to export? I want all of the slides. And it tells me that it has made a folder for me. So hopefully it did, because I'm going to close this out. And here it is. Okay, so I open this folder, and now here are all the slides that need to go into OBS. So I can pull OBS back up here, and now I'm going to direct all of my inquiries here. So if there's a welcome slide, usually I leave that one up there, but sometimes when I'm erasing the slides from the previous week, that's just the way that it goes. So I'm going to go ahead and reconnect our welcome slide here by going into that folder, and I'm going to find the welcome. See, I highlighted it there. And then there it is. So now when I hit the scene, welcome, there it is. Now I need to do this for all of the scenes. So if there's a title for the week, The title's new every week, so I'm going to need to browse and find the slide that has the title on there for that day. It's nice to show the title at the very beginning so that when people go to find it, they remember, like, oh yeah, that was the talk. And then pre-service announcements we'll get to in a minute. Let's do the spotlight. Okay, so pre-service announcements are the slides that are going to scroll here. These are all pictures of slides that scroll before the Facebook Live starts. So when people are just getting on and you don't see people, you just see slides. And they do change from week to week, so I'm just going to get rid of that by clicking the minus sign at the bottom. I'm going to click the plus sign just to remake it over again. Now a lot of times I just leave the ones that we do every week on the desktop, but I think my desktop was just so cluttered I just erased all of it because it was just easier than trying to figure out which slides I needed and which slides I was still going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert an image slideshow, and they are announcements. So that's what I'll call them. And then now it's going to let me choose to automatically loop these so that I don't have to keep clicking the button. I can just let them play once I click on the announcements while I'm getting other things ready. So to add pictures to that, we scroll down and click the plus sign, and we're going to add files from the same place. I'm just going to keep adding them in here until I have them all that I need, that are in there. And then I'm going to drag this so that it is full size. If it's here, then people will see this black part here. So I want to make it full size. And then when I hit the transition button, this is what people would see when these announcements scroll, and you can see that it fades in and out. And I do have the ability to change like how fast that goes in the settings. If I just click back on the pre-service announcements, I can change how fast. So you can't just plug the camera into your computer like a webcam, because the cameras we're using have to have a zoom lens in order to get from the back of the church all the way to the front of the church. And so I've used my Alpha 6000 series Sony mirrorless camera, but right now we're just using a camcorder because I think volunteers or anyone is more familiar with a camcorder. It has a digital zoom on it that seems to go from the back to the front. So that needs to be set up on the tripod. So once the camera is mounted on the tripod, you'll need, we use a really long USB extension cord that is plugged into a HDMI mini. And then on the side here, you just open the camera up. And there's a place on the camera for the mini USB to plug in to one end of the cord. And the other end of the cord gets plugged into the capture card. The capture card is going to change our analog camera signal to a digital signal so that the information comes digitally and the computer can understand it. This capture card is very finicky. This is a lower end capture card, and it doesn't like to stay in the computer. It must, number one, be plugged directly into the computer, and then if you tap it at all, the video will freeze and you'll have to put the video back in. Because my machine's already processing this web camera footage, I'm just going to show you what it's like to put in the camera with that instead, but the process is the same. So we go to camcorder, and we're looking for this video capture device, and it's always going to be disconnected. We just either need to erase it and put a new one in, which I like to start clean because sometimes even though you try to refresh it, it doesn't refresh. Or you can try to refresh the one that's already there just by clicking on it and changing the settings. Let's just add a new one. So we go to the addition button here, and we're going to add a video capture device. And I'm going to create a new one since I erased our old one. And then you need to look in the drop-down menu and find the camera that you're looking for. And in this case, I'm using the HD Pro web camera. I'm using that for the Loom video I'm creating right now, so I'm going to use the internal camera that's just a regular USB camera for the computer and pretend like that is the camera that I'd be using on Sunday. And then I need to resize this window to fit. And then I'm going to do one for meditation so that it shows up in this little box here. Let's just try this time to click on it and see if we can find it in there. Oh, nope, see, it didn't work, so we'll erase it. And we're going to go to the plus sign, add a video capture device. We're going to add existing because we just set one up a minute ago. We want to use that same capture. It would be like if Kathy's at the platform, you can see the whole platform, or you can see like a picture-in-picture on the screen. I can move it around and put it where I want it. And then for our pre-recorded video, we need to do this also again because I'm going to ask that the camera just be pointed at the television when we get this. So now that the cameras are in and all of our slides are in, we change scenes by pulling whatever we want to show up here and then transitioning with this button in between them over here. So this is what we play with, and we make sure, like if I wanted to show Reverend Kathy in this, I could put a camera back there behind her and have the card small on the page if I wanted to. Now we're going to make sure that OBS talks to Facebook and that we have sound. So we've been using the Scarlett Focusrite, and I have this plugged in with a USB-C. It's plugged into the computer on the other side, and Nudge is going to give me an XRL cable to go in here straight from the soundboard. And then I can use the dial here to help adjust how much sound is coming in, and I can also monitor the sound. So Nudge has been monitoring our sound through the headphone jack here so that he hears exactly what's being pushed out to Facebook. Alright, so now that we have the camera in and we're ready to go, we need this to be able to stream and output onto Facebook. So in order to do that, we're going to have to go to the settings, and we're going to have to make sure that our stream code is set up correctly. So you can see I've got this set up for Facebook Live and the default server, whatever that means. What was really important is the stream key. So we come back over here and we go to Facebook Live. So we have to know, just like we're going to make a post, like anybody else that would go to Facebook Live, we just go there on the Unity of Garden Park page. Now we want to create a test because I don't really want to go live while I'm making this tutorial video, and that way only I can see it. So I'm going to go to next, and I'm going to use the stream key here. Now when we're connected, this black spot over here, that space will have the video in it that we need. So we're going to come down here and see where it says stream key. We're going to copy this. We're going to come over to OBS. We're going to erase the old key, put in the new one, and click apply. And then OK. So the stream key allows OBS to send one signal out to Facebook Live. So that now if we click the start streaming, and it connects, we hope that when you come back here, it says it's connecting, and there it is. So you see that this slide that you see here is the thing that we have in the program menu here. I can go to camcorder over here, and until I hit this transition button, the same slide will show up in this program menu when I come back to Facebook Live. That's what we're seeing here. So we can see that if I come here and click transition, there is a little bit of a delay between the two. So when I come back to Facebook, we're going to give it a second and make sure, oh, and there it is. So now we are ready to go and start the show. Now it won't let us have a Facebook Live blue button, go button, until we have put something into both of these boxes here. So I can go ahead and start test, and I can kind of leave this up here to show my details as I'm going, and as the service progresses, I might start with the welcome or the title. I think the title is kind of nice because if you see that same welcome screen on every single Facebook video, then you can't tell which is which. Now remember, the same person running this might be the person running PowerPoint on a separate computer. So on that computer, before we can start all of this, we need to get another copy, just like we did in the beginning, of the PowerPoint by going to the Unity of Garden Park PowerPoint folder, downloading it, and pulling that up to run that as a PowerPoint. So they will be on the left side, they will be clicking to advance the slides on the screens, and on the right side they will be clicking these scenes in order to send them out to Facebook. The audio sync, so that a person's voice would actually match up to their lips, is always an issue because we're bringing the audio separate from the video, and so the audio is going to come through quicker because the data is in a much smaller package than that very rich video image. And so we can go to the audio cogwheel here and go to advanced settings, and we can actually offset the sync here so that we can slow down the audio so that it catches up to the video. And it's a little different every single time, and that takes time before the service to get that done. Idealistically, what you want to do is, instead of going live over here in the menu, you want to actually record. So if you started recording and you let somebody talk, you take up a microphone and talk, and then take that recording, put it into a video software editing system like you might want to edit so you can put your video onto YouTube, and measure the distance between a sound that occurs in the video and a sound that occurs in the audio, and then come back into OBS and then off sync it about that much, how many seconds or it's always going to be a millisecond, how many milliseconds it's going to be. And most of the time we don't even get that far. By the time we get to, okay, let's sync the audio, it's already time to go live, and we don't even have time to do that. Another thing is, if you want only one person, there's technically been only one person for most of our history in PowerPoint media since we had TVs up actually running this. And so the camera is close to the center of the church, and then the media person's back in the booth, because remember, while we're doing all this streaming, the media person is also showing the PowerPoint. So this little guy, the Elgato Stream Deck, got me through the entire time at home during the pandemic. I was running 2 computers, and I had to do Zoom and OBS and Facebook Live, and it was so hard to go back and forth on screen, constantly moving my mouse, that I could use this to program functions. I programmed in functions for Zoom, I programmed in functions for slides, I programmed in functions for OBS, so that all I had to do was click buttons, and I didn't have to keep moving my mouse to try to figure out click here, click there, click there. I could do it in one click. So I got a second one, and I had even put tape over them, one for Facebook and one for PowerPoint, so that I could literally program in every single slide of the PowerPoint and every single scene that we see here in Facebook Live, and instead of clicking on it like this and then transitioning it, I would just have to click on the button on the Stream Deck, and it would be clicking this for me on the screen. I know that sounds wild, but basically what this is a mini keyboard that you can program. I want to get my picture off the top there in the preview window. That looks awful. Okay, so I did this for a few weeks when we went back to church. And what I found was, number one, when I did this for Zoom church, I programmed it once and I was done. Sanctuary church is a little bit different because number one, I'm not the one pushing buttons. And so I need to make sure that they're in an order and an arrangement that makes sense. And those slides change every week. So programming the buttons for all of this on multiple pages, you can page up and down, was taking about an hour and a half to 2 hours extra time a week. Plus, there would be glitches in that too. Like, I have to have the computer at home with the Stream Decks so that they match. So the whatever computer, the PowerPoint computer and this computer, or I can save a file and extract it and go and put it into, like on a jump drive, just like we do with the PowerPoint. And what I was finding is I was so tired trying to keep up with everything that I would download the wrong file. So I really needed to be able to double check everything and bring everything home and then take everything back to church. Now, we can't sustain that kind of program because it would be a little crazy and chaotic trying to keep up with who has stuff when, coming to get it from the church, taking it home, doing it, and going back to the church. And so those are things that would be great because I bought these extension cables for this, so that this is all the longer the cord is right now, but I bought these extensions so that they would literally reach up to the camera, so you could have one person on the camera with the Stream Decks running the camera, because remember, you can't be away from the camera because you've got to tilt towards Kayleen, you got to tilt towards Kathy, you got to tilt towards the platform, you got to tilt towards the music, and so you have to be close to the camera. You would have to have 2 to 3 people to run that kind of setup, unless you programmed the hour and a half of work every week and make sure you double check, have everything, or make sure that you're bringing the equipment home and bringing it back to church and setting it up every week. That just seemed exhausting to me to try to figure that out. And so if you notice in later broadcasts of Facebook Live, we actually cut out a lot of those slides and different things that you'd see built into these scenes, just because I didn't have time enough to program them in for one person to be able to run it. So I have a really hard time trying to find one person to do the PowerPoint alone, one person to stream and run a camera and a PowerPoint. So those are some of the struggles we've had along the way. We've decided, just talking with my team, to chuck these and to just try to make sure we always have 2 people, one for the camera, one for OBS, and then my job, if I'm the streamer, is to sit here and click through these and transition them over when it's time on Facebook. And the camera operator is just making sure that the camera is in focus and pointed at the person where the action is. So I think it's a lot. It's served us well. I'm so happy that these platforms like OBS are free platforms and that I've had the time and energy and the equipment to make this work. However, I'm really happy to be moving on to what I consider to be greener pastures. And so in my next video, I'm going to show you what all of this looks like now that we have our new setup. And thanks for taking the time to watch, and I'm glad that we made this as a historical document, not just as a step that we've made forward in really trying to be able to set up things for our volunteers to be successful in the spots that serve, giving them the opportunity to serve, as well as be the one sitting there in the sanctuary receiving. But also, in case we'd ever have to go back and go outside for any reason and we can't bring the new system with us, this will be a really good reminder for how to set things up outside in parking lot church for a special event that would be outside. So I'll see you in the next one, and I have another video on how to do the editing. So God bless, take care.